Hello, Jonas. Congratulations with this moving and remarkable and powerful tale. Can you first tell us something about the journey that Flea made from story to screen? Because it's a story, as you told in the beginning, that starts a long time ago when you met Amin as student in your hometown. 25 years ago.
Yeah, no, but that's where it all started. You know, I grew up in this very small rural Danish village, and then one day Amin arrived, and you know, I thought he looked very cool. He was very fashionably dressed, and we didn't have a lot of migrants, refugees in the area at the time, so he kind of stood out in the crowd. So I was interested, and I really wanted to get to know him. And then, you know, he stayed just around the corner from where I lived, and slowly we became very good friends. But just that is 25 years ago, and it took a long time before he felt ready to share his story. And you know, we just had a normal friendship, a normal relationship. And then 9 years ago, I was asked to join this workshop in Denmark called AniDocs, where they invite animators and documentary filmmakers to develop ideas for animated documentaries. And they asked me if I had an idea, and I thought this would maybe be a good way to tell his story. And we met up, and I asked him, and he was really intrigued by the fact that he could be anonymous behind the animation, because what you just saw is the very first time he shares his story, and it's, you know, it's not easy for him to talk about. So the fact that he didn't have to be in the public eye with the story was really what enabled him to say, okay, but maybe I'm ready to share my story, and maybe this is the right way to do it. So that's kind of where it started. And you know, it started out in my living room here in Copenhagen, just the two of us. And I did the first recordings there 10 years ago. And then here we are 9 years later. So it's been a crazy journey, but it's been also a very rewarding one.
For the film, you had to make a lot of creative choices that finalizes in a synchronization of animation, documentary, and archive footage. Can you explain this?
Yeah, but you know, it was a slow process of really finding a style of animation that would support this testimony that was given to me by Amin. So all the time, you know, we had in mind, okay, we need to find something that can really support this, because we don't have him in the film. So we need to do something that really keeps the authenticity, so it still feels like a documentary, so it still feels honest. And with the animation, you know, it was really handy that you could revitalize the past with the animation. Like you could go back to Afghanistan in the 80s and go back to Moscow in the 90s and make it feel alive again, and revitalize his childhood home as well, and also placing Amin in it. So it was really about doing a lot of research and finding, you know, archival footage and photos from the time, and we would use some of it in the film, but we would also use it as a reference for the animation. So we would take, you know, buildings and props and mountains, you know, directly from the archival footage and put it into the animation, so it felt like the animation and the archival footage belonged to the same world. And then it was about, you know, the archival footage was really about reminding audiences that this is a true story, that underneath the animation you have a real testimony, a real person, and a real story. And we wanted to show that the reason why he's had to flee was because of historical events that happened in the world we all belong to. So we have these droplets of archival footage throughout the film to really make sure that, okay, but people understand that this is, at its core, is a documentary. And then, of course, at times when he starts to talk about his traumas, things that's really difficult for him to talk about, you could kind of sense in his voice that he becomes a little incoherent. He would lose words. He would slow down, sometimes even stop. And we could kind of tell that, okay, but now it's not about what things look like anymore. Now it's about an emotion he has inside, and it's about his trauma. And there we kind of, you know, go into these more kind of expressive and surreal style of animation that feels more graphic, that also felt somewhat more honest towards, you know, his emotion, that we try to really show what he felt like in that specific situation.
Well, it's a beautiful story and also very authentic. But there is also another journey for Flea, because after the world premiere at Sundance in 2021, the film won a lot of awards and prizes all over the world, and also 3 Oscar nominations. I can imagine this was for you and Amin an unexpected but also very beautiful journey.
It has been, and you know, it started out being a conversation between two friends in a living room in Copenhagen, and ended up being nominated for 3 Academy Awards. You know, we didn't see that coming at all. But of course, it's beautiful and wonderful that his story resonates with people around the world, and also overwhelming, of course, both for Amin and me. But I think for Amin, he told me that, you know, him growing up, he didn't have a lot of stories that he felt he could relate to. A lot of stories that told, you know, the refugee story in a way that felt nuanced. So for him to be able to give his story to the world and give this kind of story to people who have similar experiences, so they feel seen, so they feel, okay, but I'm not alone with this feeling, is really meaningful to him.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for this short Q&A after the screening. I wish you and Amin very luck with the future, and hopefully we can see another movie from you in the future.
Yeah, but thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah.